I think something I'm super passionate about these days is just the whole societal, like, there's so much brainwashing going on in schools and in just families and culture about artists. There's so much, they have so much to say about artists and what an artist is and isn't. And very, very little of it is actually accurate. Very little of it. I would say like culture's, perception of what an artist is or how an artist lives or what's at the heart of an artist or how an artist can make a living is just so skewed. And
hello, my name is Brandi Hofer, your host of the Color Me Happy podcast. I am so glad you're here. I appreciate your time. Thank you so much. If you want more weekly content just like this, be sure to like and subscribe to our channel. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out on Instagram at Brandi Hofer Studios anytime. I'm happy to chat. That's where I sit. And I'm so glad you're here and I cannot wait for you to dive in. So give us a like and subscribe and check the rest of our channel out.
Magical experience, right? Like once in a lifetime sort of thing. Okay, so back to square one. When you started, and I want to talk about what it was when you started. Did you envision the massive, like what it grew into, like what it is today? And it's still ever amassing, right? You guys have some amazing goals. And I know you through your son-in-law and your daughter, just so everyone knows how we met. And it was just kind of, I came on your Tuesday.
Yeah, Art Talk Tuesday.
Art Talk Tuesday, yeah. And it was just so fun. And then Jake, your son-in-law, had invited me back for a little bit more things to do with you guys. And
yeah,
I thought you guys did it all the time.
Yeah, yeah.
He's like, no, you're the first one. So it was so nice. And I'm so honored. And it's so inspiring, everything you do, because I grew up in such a small place and there still aren't a lot of artists. There is a great creative community, but like the scale of what it can be never really crossed my mind. Right. So yeah, did you ever see it? Like, did you ever imagine it was going to like, mass?
Well, yeah, because I was 19 and I was going to Savannah College of Art and Design, and I was just minding my own business, kind of laying in bed one night, just, about to drift off to sleep. And I, like in an instant, I mean, this sounds a little mystical, but in an instant, I got like an instant download sort of vision of what I was going to do with my life. And I just saw it all, and it seemed to like last for hours, but also like a millisecond all at once. And so I just saw this huge property of, just maybe 1,000 acres or something of just green rolling hills. And there was buildings everywhere. There was houses. It was filled with artists. It was an artist community. And it was almost like I was flying around and going in and out of all the buildings and seeing it. And there was, all kinds of art studios that did like, that had printing presses and had kilns and foundry and like all these cool things that you could create. And there was artists gathering and they were, critiquing each other's artwork, and there was painters and then I saw kind of this like office or this room full of like people at computers, and there was this whole like PR arm and a publishing arm and a marketing arm, and all the art from this community. It was like a movement, and it was going, all over the world. And it was like, there was like farm to table food and like animals and gardens and orchards. And it was really like an artist community, and really cool. And I just felt like there was like this movement or a renaissance that was going to happen in the arts, and I was going to somehow get to be a part of it. And then I don't know, I think those dreams just kind of went on a back shelf at some point. I got married, had kids. Then I just painted, John and I both, my husband, just painted and sold our work. And we kind of just got in that sort of, paint, sell, paint, sell, paint, sell. And we made a living. But it's at one point it started to get a feeling like empty, like I don't know, there's got, okay, you know, yeah, we're making a living selling our art. That's great. I mean, that's a lot of people's dream, and I'm happy and grateful, but it just felt like, I don't know, like we weren't really helping anybody that much, you know, we were just like giving people beautiful things for their house. But so anyway, then things shifted, and the school started in 2010, but I didn't connect the two. I didn't like realize that the school was, I think that just came out of a desire to want to help other artists. And but then after, it didn't take long, but after a few months of starting it, I realized, whoa, this is how all those artists will sort of come together with kind of lightheartedness, and you know, want to go do something together. This is where the movement comes. And so yeah, so then the school really had a lot of purpose behind it at that point. But then for years it was just, I didn't understand how to make it bigger, or I knew it had to probably go online, but I couldn't put all those pieces together. And I was kind of just me and John by ourselves, and didn't have a lot of help. And it was a little bit of a one-man show. And so then I think it was in 2017, we partnered with Elijah, and who's now my other daughter's husband. So we partnered with him, and he had all this experience with instructional videos and videography and online education. That's what his background was. And so he helped us, you know, bring it online. And then, you know, basically my kids got involved then, and their
You
husbands.
just grew your
Yeah.
your helpers.
Yeah. So
Easy,
the team
right?
sort of started with family, and then, you know, as we could, you know, as the resources came in, then we were able to hire more people and develop a whole coaching team. And, you know, it got, and the students would graduate and their heart would be so like impassioned for what we were doing. They wanted to help. And so we had we still have a really great pool to pull from, of people that are passionate about what's going on, that want to be a part of it. And you know, as you know, if you have passion, that's the biggest part. You know, people can learn anything. So I think we have a really great team and a lot of people that help us, because it comes out of them seeing the purpose and them seeing that vision, and really believing that they can change the world with art. And I think that's what everybody sort of has in common, and makes it really purposeful, and, you know, unity in that purpose. So
I love the sense of community, because so I went to university. Well, I graduated in 2008, and just the mindset at that point in time, and it still is in the art world, is so competitive, and, you know, look out for yourself, and painting is a solo act, and it just it wasn't like so then I kind of got into the film community, because it was just, you had to be a community to pull off a project. And I just really gravitated toward people working together. So it was a nice reprieve from, you know, 4 years of just painting and having people rip one another apart.
yeah.
I'm just like, this is not the world I want to be a part of. I love creating. Like, I have to do it every day, but I cannot take how this makes me feel. And I'm sure others feel the same way. So for years and years, I just felt like I was just creating alone. And so it's only recently that I have found friendships and community, and people like you who see that, like, visualize people working together, and know that it's possible, and it's more beautiful and more magical.
Absolutely.
And special. And I feel like I was, you know, making art, selling it, making art, selling it. And it's burnout. And it's just like, you're not honoring your magic, almost, in the weirdest way. It's hard to know until you do it, because it's more of a feeling than anything else. But I really am enjoying branching out and finding other ways of expression. And that doesn't mean I'm not an artist, and it's okay to be multifaceted and, you know, explore other avenues, because you can always come back to your artwork, and you can always, you know, that's never going to leave you. It's just,
Right.
yeah. So I really admire your vision, and it's not like it happened overnight. You said you had that when you were 19, like that vision, you know? So, and now,
we still really haven't achieved it 100%, you know,
well, no, but it's pretty cool.
Beginning. Yeah, it's beginning.
Yeah.
It's starting to happen. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really beautiful. So, have you guys always gone to like back and forth to your roots?
You'll need to continue on your personal device.
Okay. Back and forth between Greece and the States, or how does that work?
Yeah, I mean, when I was younger, I lived in Greece off and on, and John also. So, you know, when Dimitra was, I think, 6 months old, we lived there for 6, 7 months, and then we did it again when the kids were a little bit older. I think Dimitra was like 6, Daphne was 4, and Dahlia was like 2, something like that. And then anyway, so yeah, we lived there off and on. Mostly that was back before the school when we were just, you know, painting, selling. And I think it was like a way to just kind of like break it up a bit and get inspired and like you were saying, not get burnout. Like it was just something our soul needed to just have new inspiration, be in a different environment, live in a foreign country for a while. And it's, you know, familiar, it's our roots, you know, we all feel really alive there. So that's kind of how it started. And then there was a long break where we didn't go very much. I think when the kids started to get a little bit older, and then Dino, so then we had 4. So then there were 6 of us, you know, it's just a little bit harder.
A challenge.
Yeah, it's a little bit harder. So there was probably 5, 6, 7 years that we didn't go. And then I started going back because I began volunteering in Ukraine. I got an opportunity to teach in Ukraine, very short term, just like for a couple weeks. And so I would go to Ukraine like twice a year for that opportunity and teach at an art institute there. And so then I would go to Greece, and because they're so close to each other, and I had a connection with a university, with the art school at the university in Thessaloniki, and through a family member or whatever. And so I thought, well, I can make more out of the trip if I teach there too. So that didn't work out as well. They were definitely not as open as they were in Ukraine. So, but it got me reconnected with Greece. So then we just started traveling there as a family. At first, though, it was kind of a money thing because, you know, if all 6 of us would go, it's like it's a big chunk, you know, and it's like, do I really want to spend that on a trip for 3 weeks, you know? And so we did it once, and then it was just like, we got to find a better way to do this. So honestly, I think if I'm real honest, the trips began as a way to pay for our family to go and not have to like have such a big, financial expense.
I hear that. I always say it's like 2 birds with 1 stone.
Yeah.
Pay for a trip and also like have a good time.
And
I
said
back yesterday or the day we were going to podcast, and I said, it's okay. I got to reconnect with my aunt after a few months. And I said, I really want to come visit you, but there's a mural festival in your city. It would be super convenient if I painted the mural and we came to visit.
Yeah, perfect.
Right?
Absolutely.
Because it just, I don't know, is it the creativity or you're like, well, I just also, I think too, as when you're a female and you've parented for so long, it's like your freedom a little bit, like you're clinging to your independence and like you give and give and give. And like, I share my studio space with my children, but it's like, sometimes like this is mine too. And it's just like, there's no, like, it's happening. It's not like there's no question. It's never going to stop. And I want to call it selfish in the best way, in a stubborn, amazing way.
Well, I think you're a doer,
big-
you know, like you're a doer and you, so it's efficient. It's efficient to, you know, see your aunt, and, you know, do the mural and cause it's a lot to like leave your house and go and pack everybody up and get it and do, you know, so you kind of want to get more bang for your buck in all those things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do that all the time too, but
I
I
always
think
think
it's
on a
more
holiday, I'm
like,
well, what am I going to do there? Like, I love to go outside, but what else am I going to do?
yeah, but I think because you're a doer, so
Yeah, that
you
makes sense.
always want to maximize and squeeze as much out of every opportunity or thing that you do, and yeah.
Yeah, that pretty much sums it up. So did you always, when you did that, so you kind of like hustled in a really great way, like you made it work so you could go as a family, but it also, you could benefit from it, and it not be such a burden financially, right? So like you worked really hard to make that work. Did you and your partner include your children in your studio practice?
You mean in
Anywhere,
general?
when you were creating, were they
Yeah,
like
I mean,
around?
yeah, we I mean, actually it's kind of a cool story. We John and I, you know, we're both artists on our own, right? For many, many years. And we would often sell in the same places. Like we would both get into the same gallery or you know, yeah. So we were pretty equally you know, successful. But we really wanted to collaborate. Like we always wanted to collaborate, and we would try to paint on the same piece. And it's almost like we would do better on our own than together, which is not what you want, right? And so we would try, and we would just go, man, we just made something really ugly. Like I could do better without you, you know? And so it was
Let me just
discouraging.
fix the part that you did.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Let me fix the part you did. And so it didn't go well. But then on the other thing that we really wanted to do was abstracts. We both only painted representational type art, and neither one of us could do a good abstract. We could do an abstract, but it wasn't really a good one. And there was a big market for it, and we knew we wanted to get into abstracts and be able to do that. Anyway, so we were in Greece, and Dimitra, I think, was five or six. And she came into the studio, which this was pretty common, you know, once she was older like this. And she would come into the studio and I want to paint. And, you know, sometimes I would let her paint. Sometimes I was like, I got to get this done. I'm sure you know what that's like. So I was kind of done for the day, and I had this palette of like acrylic paint on it. And I said, here's a leftover palette. And I said, go ahead and grab any painting you see on the floor, because that's where all our duds were. All the bad art was just on the floor. I said, grab any painting you want.
There.
Yeah. So I was like, grab any painting you want and just go ahead and paint on it. And we were really struggling at this point because this weird thing happened where we had this dealer. I didn't mean for this to be a long story, but anyway, we had this dealer in Arizona that we were working with, and they double crossed us. They wanted us to do prints, and we didn't want to do prints with them. We just wanted to sell originals. And because they were only going to give us like, I don't know, like $5 a print or something stupid like that. And so yeah, I was like, why am I going to do that? Why? I'm not going to do that. So they were upset with us that we wouldn't do the prints. And unbeknownst to us, they had this deal with Costco, where they were getting prints into Costco and doing like Costco. They do this road show where, you know, how the Costco features like a business in the front. Sometimes they sell jewelry or they sell leather jackets or whatever. So they had that. And so they would go around on the West Coast to all these Costco's with all this artwork. And they were selling basically their frames and then prints. And so that's why they wanted the prints. Well, we told them no. And then they dropped us, and they just dumped us, even though we were their top selling artist, is a way to kind of like, strong arm us into, because they knew that that we relied on them financially. So we didn't kind of give in to the blackmail. Yeah, it was like their way to blackmail us into doing it. So we didn't give into it, and we were just trying to find other dealers, other opportunities. And so we knew we needed to do abstracts. So anyway, and it turns out that dealer sold our work in Costco anyway and made prints without our permission. And when we came back from Greece, we went to Costco and saw all of our work in there. Yeah, it was just terrible. So, but anyway, so back in Greece, we are struggling a bit. And so now we're like, we need to make some art and so we had tried to make all these abstracts. And so we had all these attempts on the ground and they were just really bad. Well, Dimitra picks up this beach scene. It was like this scene of like kind of an abstracted like water, ocean, seaside scene. And there was a little guy with like surf shorts on kind of looking out. It was a bad painting, but she started painting on that. And she made this abstract. And I looked down, I saw it, and I was like, oh my gosh, that is a really good abstract. That could sell.
It's good.
Yeah. And so all I did is I changed this kind of yellow that was in the middle to like a creamy white. That was the only thing I did to it. And I took a picture of it and I sent it to this dealer in Canada that we wanted to work with. And I said, what do you think of my new artwork? Totally lied. And he wrote back and he's like, oh my gosh, that would totally sell. He's like, if you send me 20 like it, not just like it, but like that look, he's like, I'll buy them from you. And I was like, oh, okay. Yes. Great. So, we got Dimitra and we're like, okay, can you do it again? And so we were thinking, we'll just collaborate, and, and she didn't, she started drawing, clothes hanging on a clothesline with like little polka dots on them, because that's what she kept seeing outside is people hanging their laundry up. And so that's what she kept drawing. And we're like, no, abstract, but she doesn't get what that means. So it was like, this isn't working. So I was like, well, I'm a professional artist. I'll just copy it. If I copy it once, I'll know the formula and then I can do it. And I couldn't copy it. I tried and it looked like a bad version of hers. And she was 5. So John's like, well, pass it to me. I can do it. So I passed it to him. He works on it a little bit. And I'm like, no, pass it back. I worked on it. He's like, give it here. So we passed it back and forth. And finally, between the two of us, we were able to replicate that painting. And then it took us like maybe 3, 4, 5 paintings before we had a system down. And basically, I would start them, take them about halfway, and then he would finish them. And we got all, 20 together, send them off to that dealer. And that's what got us going and collaborating and abstracts. And then for like 8 years, we were his top seller of art. And we were one of the top sellers at Art Expo for a few years in a row. And it was all from those collaborations. And mostly it was abstracts. And really, Dimitra was the one that opened the door.
Magic.
Yeah. And she opened the door to abstracts, really, for both of us. We couldn't get through. Everything was so literal, or just, I don't know. It just really unlocked something for us. And it got us to actually collaborate. And neither one of us can make as good of an abstract alone, I don't think, to this day, unless we work together. Then that's how we can get the best abstracts. So yeah, so that was really one way that we really collaborated with the kids. But mostly I would say they just sort of paint like your kids, just in the environment. Of course, you do collaborate with yours on a regular basis, which is so cool. And I wouldn't say we did that too much, but they would work alongside us and just paint and create and be a part of it. And then when they were older, I would say starting from like 10, 11, 12 is when they started to come into their own and really learn and start creating work. And by 12, they were selling their artwork that they were creating. So,
which is wow, right? Like that's not normal. Well,
No,
even when we had our solo show with Finn stuff, I was like, well, it's going in the gallery, and they're like, well, who did we beat? I was like, well, it's not anyone. we just have a solo exhibition with this work. And they just didn't get it. But I'm like, I know, because they can't fathom like the art world or the way it works or anything. I'm like, it's a big deal that you guys have your own show, as you know. And I did one with Gus and I did one with Finn, and now there's Teddy, who's beloved by all. And I'm like, I don't know if I have the energy for a third collection with Teddy.
Mhm.
Maybe I can take a year.
Maybe it's a timing thing. Yeah.
It is. I think it's because there's 3 of them now, and I'm just tired. And I kind of I'm working on my own solo right now for June. So, I woke up to some chalk pastel things this morning that he had it all over his face. And then I walked into the kitchen, and then they had taken one of my collages I made last night off my table. And chalk pastel, like Sennelier, is highly pigmented, and there's just no going back from that. I was like, hey guys, that was mine for, I guess it has a rainbow on it now and red. For that. I tried to roll with it. Like, I kind of got a little upset. I was like, that you knew it was what I was working on. It's right there. I like put new sheets on the table. It was like very clean, which I'm not that clean, but I was like, new for the collection. And then, you know what? I just was like, I'll keep that rainbow. It probably made it better. The back is fully red. So I'm like, I will put it in a frame where you can see the back, because it's actually very neat. So like, and that it's letting go. It's such a light lesson. Children, it's just like, okay, I am upset. I'm not going to get super mad, but like, let's just roll with it. It's probably the way it was just meant to be. And what else can you do? Like, life in general, you just go with it, because to not is just not living. It's too hard the other way.
Well, and you could be missing out on something, really great. Yeah.
No, and that's how I feel. Like with Finn's stuff, it was very abstract, and I like to work I started working abstract early on, but then I was really drawn to portraiture. I love Jenny Saville, and I loved her work and her really, intense portraiture, and I love the human form. And so, but Finn, it was just like, he loved just black expressive marks, and I'm so kind of afraid of black, because there's no going back. It's just like, black is, well, one, I actually did a pressure wash off of black off of the background of like a very large, like kind of as big as that, like over 6 feet. I was like, this got way too dark, and I liked the underpainting, so I poured paint brush cleaner all over it and pressure washed it like 6 times.
Wow.
It worked. It worked. And it's a beautiful painting of their grandmother from 1977. So ultimately I decided that it was staying in our family, but they helped with that, and they loved pressure washing it in the driveway. That was pretty fun. 2 summers ago. Yeah. Anyway, his just were so cool. Like, they were just really neat. And I'm like, I see them because I work with stretch canvases on the wall and the floor or boards. And I'm like, I see them cut up like into shapes, but like geometric shapes that like fit together like a puzzle. Mm-hmm. And then I did that, which was way harder than I thought it would be. I was like, oh, by the time fall hits, I'll just cut those up. And they looked great, but then you have to stretch and frame. So imagine like a weird triangle and figuring out the geometry to build a frame around it.
Yeah, that would be hard.
And like 60 of them. So it was just, Well, we have a construction hardware store, so my husband's carpenter figured it out because there's just no way he's like, I can't even fathom figuring this out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they turned out really, they like come off the wall by like 2 inches, and they're just these, and then I covered them all in epoxy, so they're high gloss, really fun and totally.
Wow, they sound amazing.
They wouldn't, you can't, like online, it just doesn't give the justice of like how they are in person. They're massive and they fit together, and they're so, how can you capture gloss in a photograph? You really can't.
Yeah, it's hard.
Right?
Right.
So I don't know. I would have never created that solo. Like there's
Right.
no way, So I think it's a part of letting go, and a fun way to embrace. And I've gotten a lot of flack. I don't know how you guys have, taken on the art world, and how it's been when your children are 12. Has anyone ever approached you and been like, you're selling that for what? And your child is 12? Like, have you ever gotten people who come to you and say that? Because I get it they're like, you're just crafting. It's not serious artwork. Good try though.
Oh, that sounds harsh.
It's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. No, because I think like we didn't collaborate, and so they just made their own artwork and sold it when they first started, like for very little. I mean, I think the first painting Dimitra sold, she sold for $50. And then, it would go up to a couple hundred, and then she was in the 800 to 1200 range. And then it was like, then it jumped to like the 2500, and there started to be like, a precedent of sales that brought the prices up, so they were justified.
Right.
You could easily say, yeah, okay, she's 15 or she's 14, but she just sold 3 of these last week, so that's what they're worth.
Stuff it.
So-
Yeah. Okay. No, it's like, regardless of whether it's sold or what happens, it's just people just like don't take the time to like learn about it. And then I guess maybe social media is a bit got like, since Dimitra was that young, it's gotten a little bit trolly and bigger, right? Like it wasn't the same.
Yeah, and she started out in galleries, and John and I have, our whole lives it was galleries. So I think the gallery gives like that third party validation.
Of course.
And so you don't run into it. And then by the time she was on social media, I think people could recognize, I think that a big part of the difference is she's older and she was making it 100% herself, and we weren't like collaborating, because I don't know if it was, maybe it would be different, other like, so we never really got criticized. We've been criticized for other things though, but just not that.
Not that one specifically.
Yeah, I mean, like we've been criticized a lot about just how our kids are, like, they were homeschooled, and we didn't push, like, I mean, they did homeschooling, but it was more, there wasn't like these strict curriculums and like some sort of full on program. I mean, they're educated, but it's sort of, to me, if you're passionate about learning, and you're not sitting there spending hours and hours on video games and TV and whatever, you're going to be educating yourself, and you're going to be learning. And they traveled to a lot of cool places and experienced a lot of cool things. So it was like, why am I going to put you in high school? I mean, that would be like the worst place. So we got criticism for that. They a lot of them got married young, and they got criticized. We got a lot of criticism for that. But it's like, if you start living out your destiny at age 12, 13, 14, and you're working and like having your own bank accounts and traveling and doing all this stuff by 14, 15, 16, like by the time you're 18, 19, 20 and you're getting married, you're different than I was at 20. I mean,
no, that's a lot of life lived before
right
then.
Yeah.
Like, and is the opposite better? Like not living and getting married really young? Like I always see young women and, you know, they get married young and have a family and they didn't travel and they didn't, you know, and
Right.
they feel like they missed out on something. And I was lucky to do some residencies and stuff in my young 20s. I was still with my partner, but it was before we got married. And I'm just so grateful because, you know, to live a life with regret or, you know, to feel like you missed out, I don't think that's fair to yourself, really. Not that everyone loves to travel and has to, but I think
Yeah.
you learn a lot about yourself as a person if you travel, and you gain a sense of independence and it's empowering.
Yeah, very empowering. And
Yeah.
your world just is enlarged, you know, and you start to realize you're not you know you live less self-centered. You start to realize there's other cultures, there's other people out there. They live like this, they live like that, and your world gets much bigger and you see your place in the world differently, I think, when you travel. But yeah, you're right. I mean, people don't have to travel, but
No,
I think
I mean,
it's
everyone, yeah, has their own thing, but just in my experience with some women that I've come across, and I think that's so neat that you know let them. It's not like you force them into it, you know.
yeah.
You valued the way they were going, and I just think, you know, a structured academia isn't always for everyone, and or sports, like
Yeah.
those aren't for everyone either. and and the structures of time are so strict, and it sometimes can be so overwhelming. And I think as creatives, maybe we see and feel it differently, you know. So it's I have to say, where I'm from, it's a bit of a challenge, and people probably think I'm a little bit nutty, but that's okay. That's okay with me. But I tried to fit into a construct, and it just is not for me. But I see like educators now, and they're like, I saw your talk today and you didn't know you were an artist when you were in school. He's like, I could have told you that a long time ago.
Yeah.
Like I knew, like
But
we
they
all
don't.
knew, we all knew you were. It's like,
But you know, the thing that I think something I'm super passionate about these days is just the whole societal, like, there's so much brainwashing going on in schools and in just families and culture about artists. There's so much, they have so much to say about artists and what an artist is and isn't. And very, very little of it is actually accurate. Very little of it. I would say like culture's, you know, perception of what an artist is or how an artist lives or what's at the heart of an artist or how an artist can make a living is just so skewed. And it's frustrating. So what frustrates me the most is when young people are going through school, and whether it's their parents or family members, friends, teachers, they all say this mantra that, you know, starving artist, you're going to starve as an artist. And it's like, if you really think about that, like, why did they say starving artist? There's nothing more like on a primal base, old brain level. There's nothing worse than that. Like, there's nothing worse you could say. You're going to starve to death if you're an artist. Like, there's not like a more freakier threat than that. You know, like everything in you is like, oh my God, I'm going to starve. Like that's what we avoid at all costs, is starving. And it's just so weird to me that it's repeated and repeated and repeated and repeated. It's like a curse. And so many people agree with it. And when you have this collective agreement with it, you really have something to battle. And I think that's a big thing our generation of artists are battling, is breaking through that. And I think once we do break through, it'll be like a massive flood of prosperity and abundance for artists in the generations to come. So yeah, I think education is probably like formal school is probably one of the worst place for an artist to be, because they're fed all the time. Go into graphic design, go into this, go into that, be an architect, I was told so many things besides being an artist. Being an artist was never really an option. Oh yeah, go be an artist for a career. Like, who tells people that? Nobody.
No,
And
never.
yeah, and so just imagine, and yet there's people who choose it, against all odds. They still make that choice. And yeah, and I think it's cool that you're really, lifting up women, because if you look at the establishment art world, it's all male dominated. And I wouldn't even call
It's
myself
72%. I looked it up the other day.
I would say that
talk
seems
to females.
low to me. That seems
Yeah.
even low to me. Yeah.
Yeah. So 72% male and 28, according to artsy.net, because I was giving a motivational speech about finding your fire and creating your mantra for when you come into like, when people do say negative things, and taking that negative encounter and finding your fire and using it as fuel to inspire you and motivate you, and creating your mantra to remind you every day. Like, my mantra is my creativity is worthy and powerful. And then how I see it and how I live it. So I gave a big talk about that because when I started, besides the like few negative encounters, I've had like hundreds of positive ones of women who, like in Europe, like so far away from me, just be like, I stopped altogether because I didn't think I could do it. And you inspired me to start, picking up a brush again and letting my kids do whatever on it and not worry about it and figure this out. And or when people stop altogether or don't think that it's a viable career option. And I think today more than ever, I think the world is seeing that it is still male dominated. So I am working collectively with different female groups to, just push on together, because that's the only way anything's going to change. And creating platforms, I like creating from the ground up, right? The only way really is maybe not to get into someone else's something. And that's what I thought for years, that someone would just come and give me an opportunity. It didn't happen. Like waiting for or following another male Canadian artist path, thinking that was the path for me. It's like, no, you have, like, I just was like, I'm just going to make my own then.
If you're pioneering anything, and you're the first of your kind, I mean, you have to do it from the ground up. You have to do it yourself. There are no opportunities that anybody's going to give you. And but you'll be making opportunities for others. So that's the beauty of it. And I think that's where you'll find favor, and you'll find like blessing, and the road won't be all terrible, bad, uphill, rough. Like you'll be lucky. I don't think it's luck, but it's, do you know what I mean? Like, you'll find favor on that pioneering road, because somebody has to do it. Somebody has to pioneer, somebody has to blaze a trail. And, we need supernatural help for it. It's not something you can do completely by yourself, trying to break all that down. And, 'cause it's a lot. So.
Yeah, well, I'm finding really great women who, have platforms and have been, same concept, but like a lot of them are based in the US. And they just assumed I too was from the US. And they're like, but now that I talk to you, I can tell you're very Canadian. I'm like, I don't hear it, but you do. So but it's really cool because instead of competing, they're totally into like working together. And it's been a beautiful few years. But I think even in the business world, I saw the other day, the Shark Tank shows or whatever. I can't make a lot of time for TV, but I don't. The kids
Yeah,
and the
I don't even have a TV. So
yeah, so I'm just like, it's not happening. Bath and bed for me, and that's about all I have time for. So the Kevin guy, I don't know. I saw it in another woman's thing. He's like, 3 years ago, I would have said starving artist, right? He said not, and he's like, it has shifted so much in the past since the pandemic, like the other way. He's like, now I'd never say that. I would say these are the innovators, these are the people to invest in, because it's true. Now more than ever, creativity is applicable and valued in a workplace, right?
Yeah.
A business place, people who think outside of the box and people who think and dream bigger, right?
Yeah.
And when you empower people to really value that part of themselves, and I think that needs to start at a young age, it's just such a beautiful thing. And I have fallen in love, like I love making art, but I have fallen in love with, I told my mastermind group, I was like, I really love mentoring and lifting young people and women, and I love lifting them up. It feels so good. And they're like, that's teaching, by the way.
Yeah.
This was last year. They were like, that's teaching. I was like, oh, they're like, you love teaching. I'm like, okay, well, I never saw myself as a teacher, but okay. And now I'm just, I've been volunteering a lot with young female youth groups, and they just asked me, and I was like, sure. And honestly, it has been the most beautiful journey of all time.
That's awesome.
Addicted. Well, you do it. So the magic. Like creating is great, but I think it really balances it out. Like it fills your cup more than you're filling theirs, I think.
Yeah. And still creating artwork doesn't stop, because like you're going to be more valuable as a mentor as long as you keep working and you're still doing it. And instead of just, I don't know. And I think art's addictive. It's just like, even if I never sold anything ever, I would still make all kinds of art, because it's just addictive and fun and life-giving. So yeah, I was thinking earlier about, think about like the Shark Tank guy. Just think about what other vocation or person on earth can literally take a few raw materials, charcoal and some graphite and some paper, really cheap stuff. I mean, that's all under $3, you know what I mean? And create something that didn't exist just moments ago. It just never existed. And now it's there. Take a picture of it, throw it on a t-shirt or leggings or whatever, and sell it all over the world, while you sleep. Like who else can do that? And with no overhead and no huge investments or warehouses, and it's all print on demand, and can go in any country, because those print on demand countries have places all over the world, so it's like, it's absolutely incredible what artists have in their hands. They can be CEOs of their own multi-international business with zero overhead. And there's probably, if you just talk to like somebody that has an MBA, you're not going to find a better position in any other career, any other vocation or choice you can make than really an artist, because you can create literally something out of nothing with very little materials. And it's something people want on an emotional level, and storytelling, and you're the creator of the story, and people, tap into that story, and it touches them and it moves them, and they want to own it. They want to buy it. They want to have it. They want to, look at it. And I don't know, it's really incredible.
Feeling and an emotion.
Yeah. It's the exact opposite of a starving artist. It's exact opposite.
It's actually a person who is extremely resourceful.
Yeah.
You know, like, I wouldn't say it's endless because it comes from somewhere, but like you are, what am I trying to say?
Conduit.
Yes, a conduit for, yes. Yeah. And there's just something extremely, extremely, and it's unique to anyone. And people always say like, I'm not creative. And I'm like, I bet you I can spend an hour with you and figure out how you are. Right.
Yeah.
You just aren't seeing it because everyone told you you weren't. And
Right. Exactly.
they told you weren't because you had to be an accountant because they decided you were good at math. And we can spend some time together and I'll show you that it's not true. Everyone is creative. It's just where that lies within them, right? And what they are finding it. And I mean, creativity can be so many things. So it's really, really kind of cool that way. But I will thank you for meeting me the day before you leave to Greece.
Well, thank you for putting up with me and meeting me the day you're launching your big art show. So
Yeah.
If you want to feel empowered and inspired, like and subscribe for more. And if you want to get creative, check out all our art hacks on this channel.